Okay, well, welcome back to episode 5 or session 5 of Quadpod. Joined with the guys, Mr. Jadon, Farmlifefpv. How's it going, man?
What's up? Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, that's good, man. And joined by, Mr. Joshim, the Joshimfpv. How's it going, man?
Oh, good. Thanks, and you, Lyle?
No, can't complain, man. Can't complain. How's everybody's week and weekend been?
Can't complain either. Week's been okay.
Can't complain. And yours, Jadon, how was yours? I believe you were up in Joburg.
Yeah, I was at the FDL. It was pretty sick.
Oh yes, FDL. How did that go? How was that? I believe it was a night race, eh?
It was. Well, it wasn't the whole night race, but we started racing in the early afternoon, and then we raced basically till about 9 o'clock at night. So we raced half of the racing in the day and half the racing when it was dark. It was freaking cool. Half of us could actually see better at night than we could during the day. So yeah, that was pretty epic.
Did they have like the spotlights and the rugby lights on?
Yeah, so they had 2 of the floodlights lighting up the field on, and then they had lights pointing at all the gates and fairy lights wrapped around the flags and LED strips on the ground. In some places.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Oh, that's pretty cool, man. Who took the titles at the end of the race?
So it was Devon in first, then Dale second, Charles third, and then I was in fourth.
Okay, nice.
Well done.
Oh.
Well done, Uncle Jadon.
Yeah, dude. Well done.
Thank you.
I think we were actually speaking about air density on the last episode, and I'm pretty sure that must have impacted your quad tune.
Not so much the tune, just the way the props handled. But
The props handle. Yeah, I think we were also chatting about prop the last time. But yeah, that's nice. And that was at the Diggers Rugby Club, which was in Joburg. Where was it exactly again?
I'm not sure exactly where the Diggers Rugby Club is, but it is like a couple minutes away from RC Edge. It's right on the doorstep.
So that's like Rivonia side. Okay. Well, yeah, something in Rivonia. I think I've been out of Joburg for a while now, so I wouldn't really know.
I know nothing about Joburg anymore. I went there to go visit my family. I grew up there, and I got so lost a couple of times because I don't know which direction I'm going in. You know, we sort of foiled with a mountain in Cape Town as a landmark. You can go anywhere in Cape Town because you know where you are relative to the mountain.
No, that's true. But yeah, all right. Well, nice. That's pretty cool. FDL, that's the Friday Drone League. If anybody doesn't know. But yeah, we're going to be touching on a few things on this episode. Not much that we're going to be talking about, but there's a few things we've got planned for you. But yeah, I think let's start off with one thing that I've been questioned and asked by a couple. Well, I've asked a couple of people, and a couple of people have asked me, is the SAMA license. People who have a license and don't have a license. I don't know if anyone would like to share their, thoughts and a little bit of their knowledge on a SAMA license and what it really is here in South Africa, other than it's, the South African Model Aircraft Association.
Yeah, South African Model Aircraft Association. So the main highlight of having a SAMA license is that when you fly at a registered SAMA airfield, you have full third-party coverage. If you're flying by their rules. But if you're flying around and you clip a gate and someone's car's parked in the wrong spot and you break a window or something, you have a third-party insurance behind you because you're at an airfield. But then again, you don't have that if you fly at non-registered airfields.
So essentially, it's not, having a SAMA license is not to say that you're pretty much a qualified drone pilot now, and you can just go fly anywhere and everywhere. It's just for registered fields.
Yeah. Where you do your SAMA proficiencies, which you generally should do some races. I know have accepted guys without the relevant what do they call that, Jadon? Sorry, the license, basically
Yeah. So for the regionals, you have to have SAMA. If you have registered with SAMA but you haven't got your license yet, you can give them a proof of payment. But otherwise, you basically have to have SAMA to race. At FDL, they've actually done quite an interesting thing, and I think they might have implemented it with regionals as well now, is they have a system where for one race, if you don't have SAMA and you don't want to spend the money to register for SAMA, if you don't know that you're going to enjoy racing, you can go try racing without having to have SAMA. But you can only do that once.
Okay, but what I was talking about was more the proficiencies. I know some races allow guys without proficiencies, like your solo proficiency, advanced and instructors and all that sort of thing. Some races allow guys without a solo proficiency to come and race, but generally it's a good thing to do and go through your proficiencies, because you get a certain rating on your SAMA license for that proficiency. That just means, like with me in the helis, okay, if I want to participate in a helicopter event, I have to have an instructor's now. It used to always be a advanced, but now it's an instructor's proficiency that you have to fly heli events with, because 3D helicopters are so dangerous compared to anything else out there, especially when you go up your 700 size. That blade can do some damage. So quads, not so much though. They can do damage, sure, that's not what I mean. I mean, guys are flying without proficiencies and only with a SAMA license.
Yeah. Although solo proficiencies are becoming a more stressed requirement now, and are probably in the future going to be a must for any racing.
Yeah. Well, it's it will always go in a direction that's going to improve. Safety is a big concern. Like I spoke about the last time I was on the Quadpod. Safety is definitely a big concern when it comes to flying quads and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think having that would be something to to keep in mind. And if you had to get your SAMA, or let's say to get registered for SAMA, how would you go about doing that? For the guys that don't know how to go about registering and all that.
You just go
is it like an online form or like a website that you can go to? If I can ask you this question, do you need to be a part of a club essentially to have your SAMA license?
No, you don't. Not for the SAMA. You have to go to SAMA's actual site, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's a similar process. You basically click, you're a new person and you go and register. Then you just select whichever club is nearest to you, and I think they just use that for like referencing basically where you're going to be flying most. Then after you've paid the thing and emailed them the proof of payment, they'll give you your license. They'll post you a SAMA card, and then you have your license number, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think for racing and that's probably a must to have. But like you said, the system that they're implementing, if you're not really SAMA registered to have like a demo race, if you could say, that's actually pretty cool as well. Considering those who, just race for the fun of it, But
on the SAMA website. On the SAMA website, you can find all the different flying fields that are SAMA registered in your area and all that sort of thing. It's got dates for the events of all different types of aircraft and aero modeling events and all that sort of thing. So you can definitely have a look at SAMA website, quite detailed.
And if you guys had to say, I know it's an annual payment, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's an annual.
And what's the overall price to?
I paid $450, I think.
I think it's still $450. Yeah,
probably
still $450.
450 rand a year.
Okay. Oh, that's not bad. I mean, there we go. If you guys didn't know anything about SAMA, there's a little bit of a background for you on what that's all about. I think I also need to actually, being non-SAMA registered, to get my SAMA license. Not just for racing and that, but for freestyle. I mean, hopefully we look at getting a little bit of freestyle events and more freestyle events in the future. And I think that will probably be SAMA registered events as well.
Yes, they have to be, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is. Like you said, it's insurance to cover if something goes wrong at the event.
And the other thing with registering a field for an event is that essentially creates a no low flying zone for planes over that area. That's why if we hold an event, a regional or something, we have to either get a permanent registration for the field or a day registration for that day.
Yeah. So direct the air traffic away from that area.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. And then one thing I actually wanted to speak about with regards to the FDL and night races and that is LEDs. I mean, Jadon, you said you were actually having quite a lot of problems with your LEDs on your quad, eh?
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of LEDs, mainly because they've just caused more issues than they have not for me. But they are becoming more and more of a requirement for like early morning races, which don't really happen a lot, but races that happen in dusk or indoors in stadiums, things like that, because they just make the quads easier to see. They make them easier for the spectators to come and watch, because as much as we can fly on our own, if the sport is going to get any decent sponsors to go anywhere commercially, the spectators are going to have to be able to watch the drones properly. So it's going to become a requirement more and more, but I think for our regional races this season here in the Cape, it's not a requirement. It'll only be a requirement if we hold races in stadiums or at venues at night, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. What's your intake with LEDs, Josh?
Mine, they're great for viewers. They look good, At the end of the day, if I'm flying against Jadon in a race and I know Jadon's LEDs are blue and I'm trying to take over and beat Jadon in a race, and if I see blue LEDs, I know I'm losing. So make sure you don't see them. But with regards to maintenance on LEDs, it does become an issue because they are quite fragile. In most cases, I'm not saying every set of LEDs you buy is fragile, but I mean it's an extra cost to your FPV experience at the end of the day. They're great to have, difficult to work with and maintain in the sense of constant maintenance because you're constantly breaking. But definitely an awesome thing to watch, from a spectator's point of view.
Have you seen I think it's Dayton's new LED race wire that race? It's like an ESC / race LED. I don't know what wire extension or something.
It's race wires, basically like TBS's product.
It's pretty much a flat piece of steel thing that they've got going.
Yeah.
And now they're just putting LEDs on it.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Would that be something you'd be interested in, Jadon?
I don't think I would use them, mainly because on a lot of the frames, it's getting more and more difficult to mount things in that space, either because that space is getting shorter or the width is wider than the arm. But the other ones that they're making with the plugs that are narrow and that just connect to the flight controller, those I'd for sure use.
With the plugs? I don't think I've seen those.
Yeah,
it's like the other ones that are on the market at the moment.
Like Jadon is saying, finding space on a race quad to mount all these extra little goodies, and still keeping weight at a, keeping control of your weight and everything. Not that LEDs are heavy, it's just sometimes, depending on the frame you fly, can be quite a difficulty to to mount these LEDs and along with everything else.
I've never really experienced with LEDs, I must say. I think they look pretty cool on quads. But like I mentioned, I think that to try those Daytona ones would be pretty cool. But I mean, Jadon, as you mentioned, and you, Josh, space is also quite, another thing you need to overcome. You can't just slap LEDs on an arm and connect a couple of things and off you go. You have to make sure that your build is also, the weights and. Well, I don't really know. I suppose we'll have to test and see.
Depends. The quads I was flying with America X, the LEDs were difficult because the arm is so skinny that the LED sort of bridges over the edges. It's wider than the arm, as well as the LED strip. Yeah, and the LED strip is too long to fit between the canopy and the motor, so it's got to sit at sort of an angle, which makes it more susceptible to being knocked when you have a crash, or if you bend a prop, it cuts that LED apart. It's just one of those things that was a nightmare, and we couldn't find any that we could mount on top of the arms that would fit. Underneath wasn't too much of a problem. Generally, you can fit a lot more underneath the arm than you can on top, but yeah, the ones on top always took a beating.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my main issue.
I was actually going to just ask Jadon, if you had to, let's say, design like the perfect LED for a quad, how would you try and, or give a couple of pointers to some of the people out there,
Basically, I'd make it as short as possible and keep it no wider than 8 millimeters. Don't worry about putting plugs on both sides, because that just becomes more area that isn't really used. I mean, on the LEDs that I run now, because we only have to run 16, I don't use the plugs on both sides. Just put solder pads on it. Don't worry about a plug, because that's another failure point that unplugs itself while you're flying, or breaks, or doesn't make proper contact and then shorts something out. And then the other thing is, I would dip it in like a resin or an epoxy. That's something that's clear but that's hard, so that it doesn't break every time a prop or a gate or something hits it.
You know what I was thinking at the one race we did in PE, where LEDs were also a must on your quads, because there was a lot of spectators that came to that event. It was in Nelson Mandela Stadium. I had problems the whole day. I had 3 working quads when I rocked up the day before the event, okay, and that night I was busy installing the LEDs. The next day I had to figure out how to get one quad working, because stripping them and sorting the LEDs out and trying to get everything to fit, all of a sudden my quads all just started acting up, and I basically had to rebuild the quad while everybody else was setting up the track, and then I still couldn't get the LEDs to work after I got the quad running. So it was sort of on the scales of what am I going to do, and I had the idea to just take some, go to a Chinese shop, get some glow sticks, crack them and stick them on the quad. It would have worked, sure. But the worst thing that can happen is you crash and it punctures it and it just leaks everywhere. It's the worst can happen.
Oh, that's also true.
But if you could make it work, the problem would just be changing LEDs if they reassign the groups.
Yeah, but if you
colors.
Well, then you get multiple colors. You just crack a new set.
Yeah.
But it would be awesome if you could get sort of somehow integrate the LEDs into the frame. So it's already in the resin that's in the carbon. You are looking at weak points, obviously, but imagine being able to integrate the LEDs into the frame with a resin, over it, so that it's completely protected, and somehow managing to power that without damaging cables and all that sort of thing. That would be cool to have an actual glowing frame.
Yeah.
That would solve all the problems of
FPV,
but we're talking about alien technology, yeah.
What you could actually probably do is you run a fiber optic strip through the arms, and then you just have one pretty bright LED in the middle hidden away.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But these are all the things your mind goes through when you're struggling with the problems of LEDs.
Exactly.
Trying to think of a simpler solution.
Yeah, other guys have said to me they've had one set of LEDs on their quads and they've been racing, and they've never broken one, and I'm like, how? How do you do that when I will take off my quad or plug a battery and take off, and before I land, the one is broken. I haven't even crashed the thing. I had endless nightmares with that stuff. Endless nightmares. So it is what it is.
The main issue for me, this happened at Nationals, was running that central board that a lot of LEDs come with. It's like a board that sits in the middle, just takes battery voltage, and you press the button to change the colors, is great if you have the space. If you don't have the space, then you run them off your flight controller, off the 5V, if you don't have an external BEC. And then what happens is if you crash and one of them breaks and it shorts out, boom, flight controller.
Oh, I know.
Well,
thankfully, that only happened to me once, and then I was using external BECs. But in some scenarios, you're not going to have the ability to use an external BEC, whether it be you don't have them on hand, no one's got stock, or something like that. It can become a lot more expensive than it would seem to at first, is basically just what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
RGB is expensive in any area of technology. If you want that RGB, you're going to pay for it.
Exactly.
Hashtag RGB laugh. But yeah, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I think that would actually be quite a sick idea, Josh, if someone could, develop a frame specifically around LEDs and in like a racing category, just like try and integrate, or put some like freaking like whatever epoxy or whatever you want to call it over it, so that it doesn't short out when it touches the carbon, or put it in like, I don't know, make it happen.
if somebody can make that happen, that would be awesome. It's one of those things that has so many different angles to look at, because the LED, I mean, you could short it out on carbon, you could crash it, there's so many things that you can do to break an LED, and it's something you don't want really to happen, because once again, it's an extra cost, be it 10 Rand for that one single strip, or 1,000 Rand because you've lost a flight controller, or you've lost something because of it. It's just one of those areas in FPV that is a problem. And like I said, it's not for everybody. It's not a problem for everybody, but for the guys who are having problems with it, it just seems to be a snowball effect.
Yeah,
exactly.
Endless nightmares. But yeah, I mean, if we think about it, I think LEDs is also, like you said, it's a space that needs a little bit of work on, something that can just. But
Sure.
I think like I mentioned, those Dayton, I think that's quite an interesting take on with that whole race wire thing. But then again, it's, if you bend a prop and it smacks that thing, you're pretty much going to chop off an LED, I think.
More than
It's one
Most
prop just
probably.
smacks those LEDs, and it's going to definitely rip something off there. Maybe, I mean, I don't know how many LEDs are even on those things, like 3 or 4. So, but yeah, literally smash a prop. I mean, that's what I do with my single ESCs. Is the first thing I do is cut a prop and cover it, so that it can avoid that collision from the prop when it bends in.
See, that's once again, it's innovation, Whereas with an LED, put a prop over it, you won't see what the LED looks like anymore. So
Unless you got like a clear prop.
Someone needs to move in the direction of innovating the LED for quads.
Yeah, exactly.
Specifically for quads, and that should make life easier.
Look, I mean, you got the DRL drones and that are big and bulky
under
and
plastic.
Huge as LEDs
That
at
thing
the back,
is a flying brick of light.
It's a school bus, dude.
I love
Ain't
that.
nothing- yeah,
Some
dude,
people
that
tell me
thing's-
that quad looks ugly. I think it's beautiful. I think it's an
It
absolute
is.
masterpiece of
It is.
how a spectator's points of view. Like, that thing looks amazing at night time. Okay,
It's a racing
No other
drone.
quad's like, and it's built like a brick. It's built like a school bus. I had ZMR 250 that's eaten too much KFC. It's what it is, essentially.
Literally.
But damn, it looks good.
Essentially, yeah.
It looks so damn good.
Yeah, no, let's not take that away from that quad. I mean, that thing is the OGs of the OGs. If anything, they've just improved the plastic on it, but they've kept it throughout every single season since I've started watching DRL.
Or getting into what the people who set up the events and stuff, and that in those sorts of events, I mean, high end, you know, flying through a lot of obstacles, super long tracks, and all that sort of thing.
That's
Imagine
crazy, man.
the challenges those types of guys face with video, with so many different elements. I mean, the fact that they set it up and it actually works, it's insane.
I don't know if they've maybe video challenge, but I mean, if you got like a big space, you know, if you got like a big hall and you just throw a whole bunch of obstacles in there. Look, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they've got these guys flying in stadiums. I mean, on the side of beach fronts, they've got these guys flying in the middle of forests, on mountain cliffs. And I must agree with you. I mean, imagine the amounts of trouble they just go to find an area where it's like perfect signal, or you know, they map out the signals. It must
I
be
know
quite
they are
easy.
using a very, very tailored video system. I think Kebab mentioned it in one of his videos. And I know for DCL, they use a bunch of receivers relayed at different points, and then they run them to a central point, I think with Cat5 or Cat7 cable.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying though. Like issues like that. I mean, look at those pilots when they fly through a stadium. Okay, they're not just flying in front of their goggles. That's not what they're doing. They're flying and they're going under obstacles, and they're going through concrete tunnels. You know, which at the end of the day, you take a normal quad on 800 milliwatts or whatever your VTX can at its full setting can go to. Okay, you can put the biggest patch on your head, and you standing to the side of the tunnel, and you go fly through it. You are going to lose your video. Concrete is not your friend, but
Especially not reinforced concrete like that is.
No, exactly. So the fact that those guys have come so far to be able to maintain good video or decent enough video to fly through the tracks that they set up is you know, it's an accomplishment in its own.
Exactly.
I would actually love to host an event like that, yeah. But you say there's can you imagine the endless possibility? Like, imagine doing the whole of Chapman's Peak.
Man, those guys have taken it to another level. That is entertainment at its best, for sure. I love watching. Absolutely love it.
I mean,
Really, really cool.
I mean, Luke Bannister, Bunny UK, is it?
Yeah, Benny UK.
I mean, that guy, when he flies and he does those intense races, I mean, it's just a whole other level when I watch that stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
let's be honest, yeah, it's like you said, Josh, it's entertaining at its most finest. I mean, if ESPN was still around, that stuff would be on ESPN, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, after you know, monster trucks are finished, you'd have this drone racing league.
Imagine, instead of Monster Jam, you've got DRL Jam, or you know, something ridiculous to bring in the masses. You know, fly at Cape Town Stadium and
add that American spice to it.
and have the entire thing commentated, and you know, this whole setup of these quads with like millions of LEDs, like those quads. You know,
I think Jadon,
just epic sport, and at the speed they fly at, the spectators are all like in awe. You know, because how do these guys control these things?
That's true, and at such speed. Yeah,
such an awesome thing to watch. That's for me. That when I got into FPV, when I started watching DRL, I was in awe. My jaw dropped every time I saw those guys fly. You know. And at that point, Johnny FPV would still make an appearance every now and then on DRL.
Yeah, you just drop these bangers every now and then, you know. While you're watching these intense races, here comes this guy with this most intense cinematic freestyle, and you're just like,
well, he
what
used
the
to
hell
race.
is going on? Yeah, did he also used to race? Yeah.
Yeah. But
I do remember.
epic.
In terms of spectator-friendly racing, DRL is like the spectator-friendly racing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the simulator doesn't live up to the name, eh?
But
No hate on the sim, though. No hate on the sim.
Sure.
We had Jadon personally test out the sim, and let's just say that he pulled me aside and said I should never ever ask him to test that sim out again.
Let's just say we should have recorded that Discord, you know.
That was probably the most intense. And I mean, he did everything in his power to try and, you know, make it workable, but it's just didn't work. Sorry, DRL.
That's gonna take either some serious sedatives to not rage, or some really serious tweaking some physics settings which I just couldn't find to get it to fly properly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, that's if we're speaking about racing and that, and I don't know if I can't remember if we have touched on it, but I'm going to touch on it again. Is cam size, 16x9 versus 4x3? Because I must say I had the opportunity to test out a set of 4x3s, and it's very, very interesting. What is your on take, Jadon? I know you prefer 4x3, if I'm not mistaken.
I
For
do.
racing?
I've seen 16x9 before, and it's I don't know. It's a very personal preference topic, but I prefer 4x3 because it's easier to see vertically. I mean, you're not trying to look to either edge of your screen. It's all in front of you. I know. I don't know. Like most people tell you, that's not what happens, or a lot of people who fly 16x9 do. But I just feel like with 4x3, it's more centralized in front of you. There's not as much on either side of you, even though if you're using 4x3 goggles on 16x9, which a lot of people are, that makes no sense. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, to put it from an experience point of view, on my side, I started on 16x9, and I flew that for quite a while. I started racing on 16x9 as well, and when I did make the switch to put it in this light, I definitely improved a lot faster than what I was on 16x9, just because of the closer to reality feeling I got. In 16x9, I think I did mention this on the last time I was on here, was about 16x9 being a stretched scene, in my opinion. As you're coming towards a gate, the gate's very tiny until it's all of a sudden big. So hitting gaps with 16x9, in my opinion, is more difficult, sure, because your gap is tiny until it's close to you, and then all of a sudden the gap becomes big because it stretches over the ratio. And with 4x3, you get a more constant. The gates, you can hit your gaps better. You can line up your apexing and all that sort of thing because you've got that vertical field of view. However, in a situation where you've got a corner that you apex quite hard to get, so say you're going through around a flag, but instead on this specific obstacle they've put a gate there that you have to go through, and then you have to be at quite a tight turn to get to the next gate. The 4x3 will lose that. You'll lose the gate completely as you're apexing. I don't know if, Jadon, you've had the same experience. If you apex that corner, you lose the gate entirely until you go through it. So you've got sort of like a touchy-feely. You have to time it perfectly. Otherwise, you never know. You might hit the gate or that sort of thing. But with regards to camera angle, it's much more forgiving in a sense, where you won't specifically be using the center of your screen to go through gates anymore because you've got that field of view. You can get that acceleration on the fast bursts on the straights or through the slalom or whatever it might be. Because you've got that vertical field of view, you can keep your relativity to the ground, because that's very important in racing. I mentioned this to Jadon the other day on a Discord chat. I was watching for a long time. I was watching all the pro pilots who fly 4x3, and the way they keep their relativity to the ground is the horizon is basically on the top 85% to 90% mark of the screen. So most of what they're seeing is the ground underneath them, and the gate's sort of in the distance at the top of the screen. Because if keeping your relativity to the ground and being able to maintain your height is quite important, because a lot of times what happens is, especially when you punch forward, you go slightly down, okay, and you can clip the ground very quickly in a situation like that. That's how I feel. That's what I used to do. Sort of watch those pros fly and try and mimic what they do, and it worked for me. It really did. It made my cornering, it made everything better. It made punching out on the straights to get that couple milliseconds in the bag, whereas you would have lost that time if you weren't punching through that straight to the next obstacle.
Yeah, I must say I did have the opportunity to try a set of 4x3s I think it was the HD3s. And look, I must say that the clarity in that with 4x3 is definitely, it's nice. And when you're flying, it's also quite nice because it doesn't feel like you're in a fishbowl, with this like fishbowl effect. Especially with some cameras, not all cameras are like that, but that's one thing I must say that I experienced with it's like a 16x9 versus a 4x3. Look, I like 16x9, and I think I've also said this on a couple of sessions. Is that I'll probably never leave 16x9, but if I ever do tend to go towards racing, I'll definitely take a 4x3 just because of the fact that it's vertically better to fly with, and like you mentioned, Josh, it's just better to fly that way because it's more accurate. It's got that realism feeling, if I could say.
Oh well, for the guys who are doing freestyle, freestyle's 99% about feel. It's about how you feel at the time, and that you'll see it in your flying. If you're feeling good and you're feeling like confident and all that sort of thing about the way you're flying, and generally the footage that comes out of it is pretty decent, compared to you being nervous and all the stuff and all that sort of thing and shaking around the place, and your footage comes out quite bad. But 16x9 helps with that for sure, because you get more immersed in what you're doing because you've got that wider field of view, and you become your quad, in a sense. Whereas free racing, you still have that, but not as much. And this is at least my experience. I'm not saying everybody's going to feel the same way about it, but 16x9 is definitely more immersive. And 4x3 is more of a, you're using it for a reason, using it for that vertical field of view. That's what I want to. Most pilots will get into off of the bat, because people are used to looking at a 16x9 ratio. Your standard TV is 16x9. Your standard BC is 16x9. Everything you go through in life is generally a 16x9 field of view, unless you're a gamer and you've gone for the 21 by whatever it is, the big wide screens and all that sort of thing for that immersiveness. But yeah, we're more used to using a 16x9. I just feel for racing, that was not the case for me. Preferred the 4x3.
The one thing I want to add to this is it depends on the camera about the field of view. So if your camera is one of the few out there that has a 16x9 sensor, you will see what you would normally see on 4x3 just in 16x9. So you'll see the same image, except it'll be like scrunched on vertical and it'll be normal in wide. But if you have a camera that has a 4x3 sensor, 4x3 obviously you'll see normal, and you cut it to 16x9, it's either going to be using a smaller part of that sensor and then expand. I think they do that on the HD cameras, not on the FPV cameras. And if it's an FPV camera, what it's most probably going to do is it's going to cut it. It's going to cut those top pixels off. So you're essentially going to be seeing way less vertically than you will horizontally. But and then the same thing on a 16x9 camera. If it's a 16x9 native and they chop off the sides, you'll see way less on the sides than you will vertically.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless it's one of those cameras where they literally just take the image and then just squish it and then stretch it, where they don't cut anything, then it's one of the cases where you'll see the exact same. Either way, it'll just be in a different sort of ratio, like a gate will be fatter one way and taller the other.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I could ask, off the top of your head, what's your favorite camera, Jadon? FPV camera?
Foxia Micro Predator V3 at the moment, but V4 when they are here and when I need to next replace the camera, it'll be the Micro Predator V4. It's just been my favorite camera since V1.
So, and you, Josh?
Same. Micro Predator V3. I was using all the top cameras since the beginning. When I started FPV, the Rotor Riot Runcam Swift 2 was the best thing out there. And then it was the Eagle, and then it was the Eagle 2 Pro, and I kept up because you won't believe how much a camera makes you flying. It's just one of those things. If the better you can see, the better you can fly. That's just how it is. And
Yeah, I can agree.
DTX included. But yeah, at the end of the day, I ended up using the V3 Micro, as well as the V2 Predator Mini in one of my quads. And the picture and the color that you get out of those cameras, I would say way beyond anything else out there.
The micro cameras are stupid though. Like they've
become full-size cameras built into a micro form factor. That's what they have become. They are just as good as anything in a bigger form factor, you know. But like I say, I've been out of FPV since December last year, beginning of January. So I don't know what's out there at the moment. I haven't kept up with cameras per se. I've kept up with 99% of other things, but cameras is not something I haven't kept up with. But yeah, definitely Predator Micro V3 was my all-time favorite.
Look, if I can say, Cadex has also come to the game.
Yes,
I don't know what
they
your
have.
guys' opinion on Cadex. I believe they're releasing sorry, Jadon. I believe they're releasing an action camera, the Dolphin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I saw that. The Cadex
action camera wise, I try to play it safe. GoPro, that's it. You know, be all and end all.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
look,
it
I'm not saying they're
Of course.
not bringing out a decent camera, but I just play it safe in that regard because I did get the Foxia box 4K. Excellent picture quality. I'm not gonna lie, that thing was just as good as a GoPro Session 5, if not slightly better. But the first time I crashed my first one, the light sensor broke off from the PDB. The second one I got, exact same thing on the first crash. It's just there was no decent bonding between those two components. It just broke, you know. Jadon, you were saying? Sorry.
Like, the only camera that I've seen come out lately that I will legitimately say is good, if not way better than a GoPro, especially the Hero 7, is the Osmo Action from DJI. That thing impressed me. Just
it is impressive.
especially in stills. Like, I don't know if you guys watched the one video that the guy put out where he took
yeah, it's got
a
rock
Hero 7, but I'm talking like for stills as in pictures. Like, he took a DSLR,
Right.
a Canon DSLR, a Hero 7 Black, and the Osmo Action at a very low light sunset with pink clouds, and he took a picture. And between the Osmo Action and the DSLR, I'm telling you, there was almost no difference, but you could see that the GoPro Hero 7 was still a GoPro.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, DJI is very clued up on cameras and stuff, especially. But, you know, what I would like to see is it put an Osmo Action on an FPV quad with that Rocksteady engaged.
Oh, there is already.
Versus a GoPro Hero 7 Black on a quad. You know, put them together side by side footage type of thing, and see how much of the field of view you lose to the Rocksteady versus the GoPros. What do they call that type of smooth?
Yeah.
As well as, you know, how it performs. I know apparently it will perform better stabilization wise, but how much of your field of view are you losing to that? You know?
Yeah. Sorry, Jadon.
No, I was just going to say, like, a lot of pilots that are going to be flying don't fly with stabilization. They use real steady afterwards if they want to stabilize anything. Like, I personally hate stabilization. I hate the way it looks. I hate everything about it. So, for me, I would never stress about losing that field of view. And I mean, long range, most of the time, you end up filming on a narrower thing anyway to make it look more like a proper camera. So, that for me is not a concern at all.
Does the Osmo Action have super view or something along those lines?
It does.
I don't actually know.
Well, not super view, but it's very, very, very close.
Is it?
But
I know super view is something that was quite a thing when it came to FPV because it gave people a sense of the speed that the quad is actually moving at, whereas a camera with a narrower horizontal field of view sort of lost that feeling that you get when you actually fly that quad. Yeah. Lyle, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, what I was going to say is if you're looking for a comparison video, I think Gag 707, he does a comparison video with the Osmos, and the Euro 7 with Hyper Smooth and Rocksteady. You must actually go check it out. It's quite cool.
I must definitely go have a look.
I don't know. I think it does the Euro 6 with Real Steady as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
But-
here that's quite fire at the moment.
That's
using
it. That's literally the
7, but with real
combo
steady.
wombo. It's either you're gonna get yourself a Euro 7 with a Euro 7, or you're gonna get yourself a Euro 6 with a Real Steady. It's exactly the same price as a 7.
But
So-
if you look at the prices on the Euro 6 Black versus the Euro 7 Black, what is the price difference? There's no price difference. In most of the
No.
places, most places now you can get the Euro 7 for 7,000 rand, and you'll find very few places where you can get the Euro 6 for under that.
True that.
here-
It's maybe like
here
500
where I am.
bucks less.
Here where I am, you can get the Euro 7 Black for just over 5 grand. Okay, but the Euro 6 you cannot get even close to that. Still 6 grand and up. You know? So here the Euro 7 Black is cheaper. But I
That's
think what
crazy.
happened there is with the whole Euro 7 Black and talking out of experience, I had to buy a whole bunch of more extra batteries for my Euro 7 Black because of the performance upgrades they did to it, but they didn't do any battery upgrades. So you literally get, if you're shooting proper video and everything, you get 20, 25, 30 minutes max out of the Hero 7, which is absolutely ridiculous. As you know, you can't work with 30 minutes of recording time. But maybe I got a dud. I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, that's just my experience, and it's something I'm not very happy with. You know, but the video quality, absolutely spot on. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's I suppose if you want to go check that out, just hit up a YouTube, then you can check the difference between Hyper Smooth and Osmos. But yeah, the prices are crazy when it comes to GoPros, especially here in South Africa. Yes, we pay arm and a leg for GoPros and that. So if you ever are in South Africa and you break a GoPro, I definitely don't think think you'll be able to get a GoPro for less than 5,000 rand unless it's second hand. Oh, except for the Session 5.
Session 5s, if you can still get them. Like,
But, I mean, those
You
are
can
like
find one.
I can still get them where I am, but they the same price as they were in South Africa.
is
It was
it?
a well sought after camera. That Session 5 was an awesome form factor, is what it came down to at the end of the day. Especially
Wow.
One thing I think we literally just skipped over Cadex cameras. We're like, what do you think about Cadex cameras? And we skipped over it. Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah, dude. You give it a bash.
So the Ratel that's just come out, in terms of colors being as true to life as they can be, 100% the best camera I've seen so far. Look, I haven't looked into it very deeply, but in terms of the colors looking like real life, 100%. But the whole reason I've always said the Predator has the best colors, and then people go, but the colors don't look anywhere near real life. Exactly, they don't. But that's the whole reason they're so good, because I don't care if the gate's neon green and it's actually white, as long as I can see it.
Yeah, that's my thing with the Micro Predator as well. Is the color was enhanced. It definitely is enhanced quite a bit. Like sometimes a sort of yellowish tinged grass will look perfectly green, and I loved it. It helps with the cinematic shots. It helped with a lot of things, but especially with the racing, your details are so much more with that camera. You know, and that was awesome for me.
Yeah,
Again,
but I mean,
for
like you
some
said,
people, not for others.
yeah, but I mean, like you guys said, camera is important at the end of the day. It's
Very.
your eyes and it's your eyes in the air. You know, it's what gets you those gaps. It's what pretty much helps. Oh, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it helps people fly a lot better and so forth. So yeah,
Definitely.
camera is definitely one of the
And
main
spending-
things you.
Spending 200 rand more on a camera means you spend a couple thousands less on replacing parts, because if you buy a decent camera, you will not miss the things that you will with a average camera. You know, especially if you're going
see
to
the
go
ghost
fly
branch.
trees, you'll see that ghost branch instead of
Scrag.
hitting it, you know, and all that sort of thing. But
And if you guys had to say what's more important, if you had to say if people were choosing between, let's say, a VTX and a very decent camera, what would you guys say is the better option to go for out of the two?
Can you repeat that? I lost the first part.
I know I said if you guys had to choose between a VTX and a camera, what would you guys choose to, like if
Racing
you were
or
on a budget? Let's just say general flying, a quad that let's say your everyday quad, that you just take to the park, I'd say.
I would 100% say spend the money on the camera and buy a cheaper VTX, because most cheaper VTXs will do you pretty okay nowadays.
Yeah, that wasn't my experience when I was in FPV. It was VTX definitely, but camera, I would say spend less on motors or spend less on frame when it comes to, make sure your camera and VTX equipment is top notch, as well as your antennas that are on the quad and the goggles. Just make sure your video is top notch, because that can cost you a lot of money. At the end of the day, it can
better you see, the
cost
better
you
you fly.
losing a quad in a failsafe because your VTX is not powerful enough and you've lost in a failsafe and the quad goes into a river, or worst case scenario, you want the best video you can get, because at the end of the day that can save you money. And that's my take on it. If some people will say, oh, we don't have 800 rand to spend on a macro camera, and at the end of the day, well, do you have 800 rand to spend extra on a quad, when it comes to breaking something because you lost your video? So,
exactly. But nowadays there are a lot of pretty solid options for much cheaper than they were last year for video transmitters. I mean, the Rush Tank is pretty well priced. The Unifiers are all coming down in price. There's other cheap VTXs for if you're never going to race that'll also do perfectly well. So
that's great to hear.
Yeah, I must say I've heard a few things about the Rush picking up its game, and the prices for TBS stuff are coming down, which is a good thing. So and then just the last thing I wanted to actually also just touch on is spots. What did you guys say is a good way of finding some decent spot, other than getting in a car and just looking for a spot?
Well, like I said earlier, Farm is a good place to start if you want to fly at a registered field, to get the feel of things, and to not have problems of people coming up to you or people getting involved or in your way. Public parks can be a problem sometimes, especially if you're more a beginner. You don't really want to be flying with other people in the vicinity, because things can go wrong very quickly, and a quad can do some serious damage.
Hashtag soft target.
Exactly. Or hashtag me going through Jadon's neighbor's Bucky's window, or there's a couple instances where we've had problems. But yeah, try and find a safe area first, especially for beginners. Second, I think just get on WhatsApp groups, and have a chat to the guys. Also, flying alone is not the greatest thing in South Africa, although it's not a big problem in some areas. It can be a problem in others. Chat to some of the guys, see where they fly, see the spots they hang out, try and link up with them, and go flying with them for the day, because they can always give you pointers. There's always help in the community, especially if you get to the field and something's not right with your quad, and everybody can chip in, and sort of give you an idea of what's going on. There's a lot of knowledge out there to be gained, especially, like I say, for beginners. Once again, hook up with the guys and fly with them, because you'll learn the ropes very quickly.
And yeah, exactly. And I know in the other countries where there's a little bit more concentrated in terms of pilots, there are 1 or 2 apps that you can get called, like, I think one's called FPV Spots or something, where you can
Spots FPV.
if you find a park that's cool, you can go to the app, you say add spot, and then you can register that as a spot, and then anyone else who wants to come fly will see you flying there, and then they'll come join you if they want to.
Yeah, there's actually a few guys in Cape Town that are doing it at the moment. It's spots.fpv that we've got that application, but look, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really use it. Maybe it's because I'm not I don't know, should I say, it's not the first thing I take out when I'm at a spot, you know. But it's actually a very, very good application, and like Jadon said, and literally on the app you can add its proximity, or it's open, or you know, or it's got a lot of trees, you know, and the difficulty level for it as well. It's actually quite an interesting application.
That sounds like a sick app, especially
Yeah.
you know, for the guys who are trying to get it into the more flying between trees and all that sort of thing. You don't. Sometimes you'll have a look on Google Maps and you'll see, oh, there's an open area. I'll get there. There's no trees, no obstacles, anything. Good thing that you can have a look and see what the spot's like. You know.
Yeah, most definitely. But I mean, other than that, yeah, it's the normal way of getting spots. Meet up with a friend. If you're unsure about a spot, ask on a group. There's plenty of WhatsApp groups out there. Just ask. Don't be shy. You know, I mean, it's one of the cool things about the community is a lot of people are willing to engage. And I mean, if you're struggling with anything in general, you know, if it's a quad or if you're uncertain about something, there's always someone you can just hit up in the community. May it be a Facebook page or a WhatsApp group or a WhatsApp message to someone that does fly a drone. Rather ask, you know, don't just go and rip a pack and think it's, you know, safe, and you've got like a whole neighborhood on top of you.
Yeah,
you know, screaming at you about this drone or FPV quad or whatever.
That's quite a thing to encounter, is somebody coming up to you and shouting at you for flying there, or they're trying to sleep Sunday morning, whatever it might be. You know, just sometimes you'll be in the goggles and somebody will, you know, randomly just rock up, and it can be quite stressful. So just remain calm in situations like that. Land the quad, even if it means putting it down where it is at that time, so you can maintain the safety aspect.
Exactly. That's why flying with a spotter is always beneficial.
Yeah, that's why I link up with guys. Yeah,
sure. Always. But yeah, I think on that one, guys, is there anything else you guys want to add, or are you guys good?
Hashtag soft targets.
Hashtag soft. Okay, we'll end it off with that one. Hashtag soft target.
It's not a good idea.
What was the last one? Hashtag Queen. Something like that.
Yeah, Quad Zen, hashtag Queen.
Yeah.
Wait, let me change that. Hashtag no soft targets. There we go. That's
hashtag no soft targets.
What is Queen?
Quad Zen.
Quad Zen. It's when you become one with your drone and you're just doing your thing. I don't know.
When you're, it's like that sort of concentration zone where when you're about to hit a gate, you feel your goggles like bounce on your head because as you were about to hit the gate, you ducked without knowing. That's being in the Quen.
Yeah. That's me.
There we go.
That's even me playing liftoff. Sometimes when I do Maddie flips on liftoff, I almost headbutt my desk. You know.
Yes, bro.
It's one of those things. It becomes extremely immersive, and you have an out-of-body experience in a way.
That happens to me when I watch DVR. Like I realize after a while that I'm like looking so far forward that I can't see the top of my screen anymore. And then I have to like say to myself, "Okay, you can lean back. It's fine." And then 30 seconds later, I'm in the same boat.
I think we all have that experience. Don't worry. All right, yeah. But anyways, thanks, guys. I appreciate that you guys joined for this session. Josh, thank you very much again for joining.
No problem.
Jadon, thank you.
It's a pleasure
for being here as well. I appreciate it. And yeah, I think we'll catch you guys on the next one. Enjoy and happy flying.
Happy flying.
Cheers, man.